I overheard my mom say my stepdad is bigger than my dad. If he's small, then I am too. My mom was on the phone with my aunt and I heard her giggling on the phone. I was not supposed to be home but forgot something and had to go home and to pick something up, and as I walked in I heard my dad's name being mentioned and she said something that I can't get out of my head. She was essentially mocking dad's schlong size. She said 5 inches and said my stepdad was huge, 7 inches supposedly. I can never look at him the same again. I felt nervous and awkward. I could not pay attention in school all day after I left the house. She did not know I was there. My stepdad came to pick me up at school that day. I did not say a word the entire ride home. He wondered if I was okay. I did not respond. I was afraid to say anything stupid. I feel terrible right now. I even went into the bathroom and measured. I have 5.6 inch and it's not very thick either, and I am effing terrified. I was crying in the bathroom. It messed with me and I guess I am a loser as well. My mom asked me if I was okay. I just said I'm going to my room and have been there ever since I got home from school. My stepdad knocked on my door and asked if I wanted dinner. I said no. I heard him talking to mom and heard my stepdad said I seemed angry about something. My mom knocked on my door and wanted to know what had happened. I tried to avoid the topic and made excuses, but she kept pushing and I just yelled at her in her face what I had heard. Her eyes went wide and I ran out of the house, told my stepdad to F off and headed outside. My dad is on a trip right now so I can't go to his place. Mom has called me 19 times in little over an hour. I refused to pick up and she is texting me asking me to come home and let her explain. I actually spent the night in a hostel and went to my dad's place since was due to come home early in the morning. I refused to go back to mom and my stepdad's place. I can't tell him what mom said. I just said I no longer wanted to live with him. My dad has no idea what is going on. I have no idea how to tell him I don't want to hurt him because those comments really hurt me and I feel like I have a mom who feels guys like me are losers for the way we are born. I am so angry with them. Mom has been calling me. I just sent her a message saying I am at dad's and told her to stop texting and calling me. She has been texting me throughout the night and threatened to call the cops. I told her I was staying at a hostel in town. I know someone working there, which is how I got a bed. My dad has been on the phone with mom and wanted to know what happened. She was reluctant to share anything so she knew I had not told him since he asked, but she just said I overheard something I shouldn't have. My dad has been trying to get me to talk about what I heard. How the hell am I supposed to say anything to him? I am terrified. I don't want to hurt him either. I still have not found the courage to tell him I am afraid he will be hurt by this as well. My anti-vax mother-in-law tried to cure my baby's flu with essential oils and it almost killed her. My mother-in-law is a higher up in her MLM company. She only got to her position by being a total scammer. She's insufferable to be around since all she does is try to recruit you or sell you products. She is also anti-vax and believes only in holistic medicine. She only ended up getting vaccinated because we wouldn't let her around our newborn when she was still unvaccinated. She is extremely pushy and annoying with her beliefs, but it is obvious how much she loves her granddaughter. I love my wife, she's my entire world, but her mother's presence in our life is a constant stressor. She is a pretty good babysitter, and she always volunteers to take our new baby off our hands and babysit her for a few hours so we can have a break. She has never done something like this before, so I was alright trusting her with our child until this incident. My wife and I took a weekend vacation, leaving our baby girl with our mom. Our child was totally fine the day we left. She showed no signs of sickness, and we were still checking in with my mother-in-law here and there to make sure our baby was doing fine. We spoke a couple of times each day, and my mother-in-law just kept saying that we were worrying too much and to leave her alone and enjoy our vacation. So it came as a devastating shock when my wife and I were literally waiting at the gate for our flight home, when my mother-in-law called us to tell us she was at the hospital with our baby girl. Obviously, my wife and I were panicking and kept pressing her mom for details on what the hell was going on, and if our baby was okay. I can't explain to you just how stressful this was for us. We were minutes from boarding and losing service when my mother-in-law finally decided to tell us what was going on. She explained that our baby had started to run a fever the night before, and she tried to treat her with her company's essential oils, instead of giving her normal medicine or taking her to urgent care. When she checked on the baby in the morning, she had a full body rash and was struggling to breathe. I had never been so angry at someone before in my life. I couldn't believe she would trust her company's bullshit over actual medicine and put our baby's life in danger like that. My wife was screaming at her mom over the phone while we boarded the plane, and we cried together out of fear and worry the entire plane ride home. It was truly the most stressful 4 hours of my entire life, and I never want to feel anxiety of that intensity again for as long as I live. When we landed, we went straight to the hospital. Our baby had been stabilized, but she was suffering from a viral infection and it broke my heart to see her hooked up to all the machines like that. I wanted to rip my mother-in-law a new one, but the moment she walked up to us and tried to give my wife a hug, my wife shoved her backward and resumed yelling at her for her mistake. As horrible as the situation was, I was honestly proud of my wife for not protecting her mom's feelings and letting her know how bad she effed up. We had her escorted out of the hospital by security, and my wife and I are spending our night here next to our poor baby girl while she recovers. I just pray to God she doesn't come out of this with lasting medical issues, and if she does, I decided I'll sue my mother-in-law for everything she's got. Update: as grateful as I am that my daughter managed to survive this ordeal, my mother-in-law's stupidity has managed to permanently alter my daughter's well-being for the rest of her life. Long story short, while me and my wife were on vacation, her mom was watching our new baby girl, and when she ran a fever, she tried to cure her with essential oils that put her in the hospital in critical condition. My wife and I rushed home, and we have been at the hospital ever since while our sweet baby recovers. When we first arrived, her doctor seemed optimistic about her making a full recovery, but as time went on, she has shown very little improvement. There is a chance that this incident will leave her with lasting disabilities, and deep down, I feel like I have let my daughter down by leaving her in the care of my mother-in-law. I had already known that she was a crazy MLM extremist, but I just never thought that she would put her own granddaughter's life on the line for her own misinformed beliefs. When we arrived at the hospital and my mother-in-law approached us, I basically had to physically restrain my wife from attacking her own mother because of how upset she was. Despite this, her mom continued to try and visit us at the hospital while we were there with our daughter. We told her over and over again that we didn't want to see her and certainly didn't want her anywhere around our daughter. But after she continued to harass us, we ended up getting a temporary restraining order against her so we could have some peace from all the chaos and pain she had been causing us. It's been about a week and a half since my daughter was first admitted to the hospital, and just today, her doctor gave us a devastating update on her condition. Her doctor explained to us that she had a reaction to the essential oils that my mother-in-law had used on her, which caused her throat to close up for a small amount of time. It turns out that the lack of oxygen to her brain during that time had caused her permanent brain damage. My wife collapsed on the floor when we received this news, and all I kept telling myself was that this couldn't be happening. Our life had been so perfect since our beautiful baby girl had entered it, and I just couldn't believe that she had barely had a chance to live in her new healthy body before her own grandmother would do this to her. The doctor informed us that when she would be ready to be discharged from the hospital, we would need to start accommodating her new disabilities. He told us that some of her symptoms might manifest as muscle weakness, or even severe speech impediments. My wife and I are totally devastated, and it feels like my heart has been ripped into a million pieces. I feel like a failure of a parent, but I'm just happy we have the restraining order against her mother because I could honestly unalive that woman on the spot if I were to see her in person anytime soon.
My entitled mother wore a wedding dress at my brother's wedding and tried to marry him. My mom and I have always had a difficult relationship. I'm her scapegoat and my brother is her golden child. He can really do no wrong in her eyes. I'm expected to do housework every time I visit while my brother sits around doing nothing. My mom expects me to cater to his every need if we both visit at the same time. Last Christmas, we were all going to my mom's house and she swore up and down that she did not need any help from anybody. Well, my mom actually gave me the wrong arrival time because she wanted me to get there earlier and help her out. Normally I wouldn't mind, especially because I did offer to help before, but I was the only one there. I felt like a caterer instead of a guest. I set up the entire house ready for Christmas and then she had me serve everybody at the table while she sat down and complained about how exhausted she was from all the work she did. Mind you, I basically did everything around the house. Then, she wanted me to wash everybody's dishes and told all of her guests to not help me because I could handle it and they're just dishes. She bragged about how if she could make this entire house spotless all on her own, I could get my pretty hands dirty for one day. And it didn't even stop there for the night. All the men started watching some football game and my mom made me give my brother anything he asked for. He even went as far as asking for a massage, though he swears he was just messing around because he noticed how my mom was making me do everything, but my mom would not let me say no and insisted I give him the massage regardless of what either of us said. It was such a humiliating experience for both of us. After that, I just stopped visiting and I've been avoiding her. I only talk to her out of necessity, which still isn't a lot. Despite all of this, my brother and I are still very close and I'm good friends with my sister-in-law. My mom, however, has treated my sister-in-law terribly ever since she started dating my brother 5 years ago. During the Christmas party, I even heard my mom badmouth my sister-in-law and the only reason she doesn't like her is because she thinks she stole her golden child away from her. It didn't help that my brother announced that when they get married, they're going to move to a different state, far, far away, from our mom. It was actually my brother's idea since he always told me he wanted to leave this state because we've lived here our whole lives. But, my mom has placed all the blame on my sister-in-law and accused her of trying to break their bond by making them move. Things only got worse when my brother and sister-in-law had their wedding in October of this year. My mom showed up in a floor-length white wedding dress. She had this poop-eating grin the entire time and it was so obvious she was proud and happy of herself when she saw my sister-in-law on the verge of tears. At that point, I had enough of my mom berating my sister-in-law all the time because of her weird feelings for my brother. My sister-in-law is the sweetest person I know and I could not have my horrible mother ruin her wedding. So without thinking, I just grabbed a bottle of red wine and dumped the whole thing down my mom's front. She flipped out and screamed at me that I had ruined her special day. Hold up, what? I asked her what she meant by that, but she wouldn't answer me. She just kept shouting that I was awful and she always hated me. She said this is why she preferred my brother to me, because I was crazy. These were all things I knew so I didn't let it affect me. However, she had exposed her true colors in front of all the guests. My mom had been called out on her favoritism countless times, but she always said she loved me and my brother the same. But she had just told the families the truth and I was so happy. As for my brother, he kicked my mom out of the wedding and said it was going to take him a lot of time to trust her again. My mom went home crying and she actually didn't attempt to come back. After the wedding, my brother talked to me in private and apologized for never standing up for me. He said he liked being the favorite and all the extra attention he got, but our mom went too far today. He said he hadn't realized he was enabling her behavior, but his wife had talked to him about the favoritism and how it needed to stop. He even confessed that he was rethinking inviting my mom, but his wife said he should give her one last chance to be a mature adult. Trying to upstage his wife was the last straw, so he's going to cut contact with her for now. My mother-in-law spilled hot coffee on me for not wanting to name my baby after her dead husband. I am pregnant with my fiancé's first child. We've chosen to keep the gender a secret and just buy clothes we think are cute. It's been so much fun, but 3 days ago it kinda changed. I was with my mother-in-law and she was asking us about baby names. She suggested a few: Theodore, Jackson, Lars, and her persistent favorite Jerson. I was confused when I heard it, but apparently it was her late husband's name. He died when my fiancé was 5 of an overdose, so she suggested we call him that. I responded, what if it's a girl, and no offense but that name is really uncommon and very special. It kind of came out wrong but she started getting snarky with me saying, it's a boy. I can tell. She then rubbed my stomach, without consent, also with her knowing I'm sensitive to touch due to autism. I brushed her hand away and suggested how about Sean? She showed the most disgusted face and said, no. We need an American name. Not Irish. You're not Irish anymore, you're American. I looked at her dumbfounded. I was literally born and raised in Cork before moving at 19. She knows this. But I tried to suggest another to move on. How about Asha? She looked at me disgustedly. My baby is a boy. A boy, she yelled louder. I tried to calm her down. Okay, how about Leo? That apparently was her breaking point. That's when it happened. She took the cup of coffee she had and threw it at me. It was hot. Hot, I tell you. I quickly got up and left immediately. I didn't want to stay there any longer. I just stopped by McDonald's to clean myself up. I drove home after that and told my husband. He was shocked and immediately went to tell his mother off. And of course this is where the crocodile tears come. She threatened me. She said I'd never be able to meet my grandbaby if I didn't butt out and let her pick the name after I suggested your father's name, she cried. My husband is unsure of who to believe. He said that even if I was telling the truth, I shouldn't have riled her up, that her husband was the love of her life, and it would mean so much to her if we named our baby after him. He's sleeping on the couch from now on. Am I being too harsh? My roommate stinks and refuses to shower. I've thrown up twice already. I am completely sympathetic to the fact that having a shower may be a sensory issue for some people, and Chloe claims she has this issue. With this being said, she knew she was going away for a week. We had 6 months' notice, on a marine biology field course, sharing a room with 2 other people. We were all friends before this trip. When Chloe is at home, she has a bath once every 10 days and is bathed by her boyfriend. We received absolutely no warning of this, nor did we receive a warning that she would not be planning to shower or brush her teeth for the duration of the trip. Marine biology is quite labor-intensive, and of course involves standing on the beach and literally in the ocean. This trip also included miles-long walks every day to get to these beaches. Had Chloe had a strip/baby wipe wash every evening, then the smell wouldn't have gotten to this point, but my god you guys, the smell. It was straight up onions, vinegar and body odor. I threw up twice because of it. Actually the worst smell from something living I've ever smelt. At this point, 4 days of walking and climbing rock pools, we could no longer deal with the smell at all. Even our other friends that would walk past the room would gag. I really am not being dramatic. Instead of using antiperspirant/deodorant, she was using a perfume under her arms, and on her feet, making the smell a million times worse. To top all of this off, there was an outbreak of bacterial meningitis in our class whilst we were away. It was only at this point that we asked her to shower. We only asked her to shower to reduce the risk of infection, and we did also mention the smell at this point. We all weren't sure about the ins and outs of this illness, and how it is spread, but we wanted to be as clean as possible after seeing our classmates and being within close confines of them all day. We were treating it like a virus. We did ask nicely. We said the room smelled and that if we all have a shower, we didn't know it was a sensory issue at this point, then it would improve the smell and the situation for us all. My friend showered, I showered, then Chloe left the room to go see some of her friends. We were absolutely baffled. The next day, we asked less nicely. It was ripe. She walks out of the room, and returns 5 minutes later with one of our uni lecturers. She had spoken to the uni lecturer and accused us of bullying her. She has also made an anonymous submission to our university's drama Facebook page which says the following: if you want to go on this trip, don't. I was bullied so much I cried every night and the staff did nothing. I know the 2 girls who did it will see this post and here is my message to you both. My family and I aren't happy, and we will be taking this matter to the police for bullying and to the university for non-academic misconduct. We are at university now. You would think people would have matured but apparently not. Bullying is serious. Now this came as a complete shock. She had not been crying every night, or at least not that we noticed, nor did we give her a reason to cry every night. The only thing we can possibly think of, and we've checked with our other friends, was the mention of the smell and the fact she needs to shower. It hurts us that this has upset her so much, but our point is, if you know you are going away for a week, and you do not plan on showering, or know you have difficulty doing this, wouldn't you warn your roommates? Plan to have a baby wipe wash, which she admitted she is fine to do. If we had known about the awful personal hygiene this 21-year-old girl has, then there is no way we would have agreed to share a room with her. So, am I the a-hole?
Are some of the most inspirational true stories you've heard. There was this very poor guy of 16 years whose dad passed away when he was 5. He had a family of 5 sisters, 1 non-working mother and 1 elder non-working brother. He joined Indian Navy to help his family financially, right after completing his schooling. But he wasn't making enough. Therefore, he chose to be a diver in Navy, for which they are paid extra with ration supply and everything. Now for the diving exam, there were a total of 16 cadets, of which only 3 were to be selected. He lost in the swimming category itself to this other guy who was a Bamia. He was to go back home the next day, expelled. That evening in the mess, the Bamia walked up to him and said, "You don't look like you belong to a warrior caste. I defeated you so easily." He didn't comment then, just packed his bags and left the other day. The next selection was after 6 months. In this time, all he did was train himself to become a stone physically. Running over 20 kilometers every morning and evening, diving off random and unsafe cliffs, once was even arrested for jumping in high tide in the Arabian Sea for practicing. 6 months later, he gave the exam and cleared it. Then came the competition, in which he not only stood first, but also set a record for Indian Navy in deep sea diving. He stood first and cleared the exam. 2 months after that, he was the chief instructor of the same Bamia guy who had mocked him and now was junior to him in the Navy. Today he holds international deep sea water clearance of 400 MTS and has topped the deep sea diver medic exam of UK, beating contestants from 162 countries and made India proud. He then moved to America and joined the Navy, where he was able to provide a home for all of his siblings as well as his family. He is my dad. Who is the most bad SS historical character? Miyamoto Musashi. Undefeated in 61 samurai duels, the first of which he was 13 years old. He invented his own fighting style using both a long and short sword called Naitan Ichi, meaning 2 heavens as 1. He once hit a sword master with his wooden sword so hard that his arm had to be amputated. He stood still in a sword fight against the previous master's brother so long that over an inch of snow built on the back of his sword, metal this time. He only moved when the brother's friend tried to sneak up behind him. He then unalived both of them with 2 swings. He unalived a monk who was a master of the long pole with his wooden sword. He unalived a master of the sickle and chain. When the master disarmed him, he threw his knife about 10 feet and hit him the neck. One of the only true sword masters to live to old age with no facial scarring. He was publicly challenged to a duel by a 12-year-old kid who was a relative of a man he had unalived. When he approached the field from behind, he saw 10 swordsmen and 2 men with muskets sitting in the tree above the kid. Musashi snuck up from behind, climbed the tree and unalived the musket men. He dropped out of the tree and unalived the kid who had challenged him and turned to battle the 10 swordsmen. It was during this battle that he was supposed to have invented his 2-sword fighting style. He escaped with his life and a large body count. A short while later at a bar, Sasaki Kojuro was insulting Musashi to the people of the bar about ending the kid. A stranger wearing a hat approached Kojuro as the crowd cleared. He lifted his hat to show it was Musashi, who sat in the back listening to Kojuro badmouth him. Musashi said he would unalive him one day. Musashi unalived him on the beach many years later. Musashi once unalived a samurai with his own wanted poster. Wanted posters were written on wooden boards like a for sale sign.